Ready? Ready? Oh.
All right. Ricefield Rebels out here. Thailand, we got a special episode for you guys today. Our boy, Where's Wes, is going to be talking about his life, going deep as an entrepreneurial nomad, talking about marriage, talking about heartbreak, divorce, and a new life that he's been leading out here in Thailand as well. Is he on?
Yo, what's up?
What up, boy? What a dude?
How's that connection? Is it like shaky? Is it laggy, or is it pretty good?
That's all right.
Your volume's a little.
Well, he's out in the fields. That's why. He's out here.
Ask him to up.
Yo, Wes, can you up your volume real quick or your input?
Yeah,
Yeah,
give me one sec.
While you do that, watch our intro.
You're back.
Is it better? Is it better? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Um,
You can. I think you can go on settings and just auto adjust volume in the audio.
Okay, yeah.
We can hear him naturally through our mic.
Okay.
So
let's get started.
okay, you can't hear him at all. Okay, maybe it's your setting.
Test,
with
test,
YouTube.
test.
I can hear him.
Yeah. Echo
Make sure you're
cancellation.
listening to this, not
Adjust
the video.
volume
Not your stream,
automatically.
not streaming ourselves. Okay,
Oh, okay.
Um,
What about now? What about now? Better?
I can hear you. It's a little fuzzy, but it's better.
Okay, what about now? Better?
It feels like a what is it? A Verizon commercial or
can you
Sprint?
hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? That
I'm
boost,
here in
that
the
what was it?
fields.
That Boost Mobile shit back in the day? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you. All right.
Can you guys hear?
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear
I
him.
cannot hear you.
Maybe. Shit. How do we help you? Settings. Maybe.
Is it because we have three headphones connected instead of four?
Not sure. I'm gonna keep this going.
Okay,
Just
yeah.
making sure, but I want to help you. Okay.
Plug it into the line.
So, all right, guys. Wes apparently left the fields of Colombia to just go into another rice field halfway around the world in Thailand out here, as you can see in his background. He's out here in the fields. He's about to go deep on his nomadic entrepreneurial life, his marriage, his heartbreak, starting fresh. And dude, he traded out the habichuelas and mofongo for the pad thai and the tom yum. How does that change feel, man?
Good, man. It's nice being in Asia. It's nice being with our people again, you know? Because in Colombia, I always
What do
stood
you mean,
out.
"Aw, people"?
Yeah. What do you mean, you people? But you know what I mean, right? It's nice being able to go to a place, blend in, and not have everybody stare at you. Because, like, the attention was cool in the beginning. But for a place like Colombia, because it's relatively unsafe, I don't like having a bunch of like attention drawn to me. So it's nice being able to relax a bit. Plus, food in Asia is way better than it is in Latin America. I will die on that hill.
Dude, I have friends that live in Colombia, and they're like, I don't get it. The food here is
It's nasty.
inconsistent.
Dude, they put bananas in ramen. That shit makes no fucking sense, dude. Bananas and ramen.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. Yeah.
That's why Wes was like, fuck this shit. I'm making my own restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was one of the reasons, bro. I wanted to bring Asian food over, but yeah, that was a struggle on it in itself, because it's like if you were to bring Latin food to Asia, you know, your target demographic has to be foreigners. And because I was living in like a small city, there wasn't a ton of foreigners. The locals liked it, but it was not as much.
Dude, interesting. Was that your first time creating a restaurant, or did you have experience?
Yeah, yeah, it was my first time doing a restaurant. I've had other businesses before, but that was the first one that I did. Yeah, that I did a restaurant. I'm never doing it again. Have you? Any of you guys worked in food or restaurants before?
Yeah. My parents have a restaurant, and it is a lot of work, and like the margins are very small, man. And it's just like
Yes,
also
exactly.
not only that, but also like one of my best friends, he's been working in restaurant business since he was a kid, and man, like it's just like shackles. You cannot like
Exactly.
travel. You always are on top of it.
Hey, can we
Yeah,
circle
and
back, kind of go over a high level? So obviously, Wes, you've had a very interesting life. I think you live a life that a lot of Asian men around the world haven't experienced. So I think what's really cool about you is you have this social freedom to kind of go wherever you want, to be able to live in a different place, to start relationships in your own terms. Maybe we can cycle back and
Yeah,
go over
absolutely.
the high level, you know,
Cool.
of why
Yeah.
you're on the interview, and I think why a lot of Asian guys are stuck in this old paradigm or in their parents' mindset, and they feel like they're trapped.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think
that's a good place to start. Yeah. Let's see if I can
like
do this a little
entrepreneurial drive.
better.
Yeah. Do you want to touch upon like where that might have come from when originally you were living in LA?
Yeah, sure. Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm indoors now, so hopefully the quality is a bit better. Yeah, I've just always kind of been like sick of being stuck in a box. I don't know about you guys, but like growing up in the West, I felt like being Asian always came with a bunch of stereotypes. So, you know, we're good at math, tiny dicks, we're terrible with women, terrible socially. All we like is like anime,
all the
and
opposites.
we're kind of nerds and stuff, right?
Terrible at math, massive
Right.
personality.
So I was just kind of sick and tired of those negative stereotypes, and I didn't want to be put in a box. I think just being an Asian person, we kind of have like the expected life course of, you know, we go to school, we get a job in finance, or a doctor, lawyer, failure, whatever, and then we get married, and then we kind of live like this super textbook life, and that was always very boring to me. And I always was in love with Latin culture because I grew up in LA, so I was surrounded by like a lot of Mexicans. I had a lot of Mexican friends. You know, I developed my taste for Latino women growing up in that environment. And I've always wanted to learn Spanish, and I thought it would be really cool if an Asian guy went and learned Spanish. So yeah, I just kind of went for what I wanted to do. And it was a lot of friction with the parents at first, but they eventually came around.
Was there like a particular moment when you're like, I'm out? Was there like a not heartbreak, but like just like a threshold, like work wise, like before like what was that moment for you?
It was when I had a really big fight with my dad. I don't know what y'all's relationship like with your dad, but for me, it was really rocky for a very long time. So we had this moment where I was living on my own for a bit, and then the landlord just suddenly kicked me out. She needed the place in like 30 days, so I ended up moving back home, and that just caused a lot of friction with my dad and I. And then we had this really big fight. that just caused me to be like, okay, in a month I need to move out. And then I was looking like, do I want to get locked down to a lease in LA for a year, 2,500 a month, something like that, or do I go to like another state? And I was just like, I think I'm gonna open door number 3 for myself, and then I went to Colombia instead.
You like always finding those unopened doors.
Yeah,
I love that.
Everything's sexual for Andrew. Unopened doors. A
bro.
wetland.
Dude, you're
Yeah.
so perverted, man. I'm talking metaphorically out here, and Mike's head is always in the gutter.
Oh, okay.
He's not even looking for the doors. He's out here in the streets in the gutter game. No. So, dude, like I think you were talking about at the time when you were moving to Colombia that you were applying for like different gigs, and you said it was like a music gig. Was music your
Yes.
main business at the time as well as your craft, or were you also doing corporate?
So I guess the closest thing I had to a corporate job was I sold real estate, and I did that. I was pretty good at it actually. And I had 1 month where I made like quite a bit of money, and then instead of going down real estate again, I was like, you know what? I think I'm kind of done with real estate. I just used all of that money, invested it into me and my music career. I played professionally for 5 years, but I took a year off after real estate to just produce music every day. I was producing like 8 to 12 to 13 hours sometimes, just every single day, producing as much as I can. And that's where I got good at producing. But then that's where I produced my first jazz album that ultimately like started the ball on my music career. And then, when I left the US and went to Colombia initially, I was going to be a cruise pianist. So I applied for that, and then I got a gig with, I think it was like Royal. They were going to offer me a contract for March or April of 2020 when I went. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to sell all my things and then go to Colombia, travel a bit. And then when my contract starts, come back. But then the first week in Colombia, they canceled my contract, but it ended up being a blessing because COVID happened and I just got stuck in Colombia. And since I was there already, I was like, I might as well just make a life for myself. And then I just stayed.
Dude, that's so badass, man. Like very rebellious of you as well. Like to choose the course that you wanted to take consciously. I think that's something that I was like very impressed with going through your content, is that you're just like a thoughtful, deep dude who kind of just has a strong intuition and has been able to live out the things that you realize. For me, I think we all can relate in terms of coming from places or backgrounds that we didn't enjoy particularly, but I felt like I was too scared to like break out of the mold. I felt the pain, and at one point the pain was strong enough to just like push me over the edge, but it was like a slower bleed versus it sounds like for you, you consciously were like, no, fuck this. I'm going to go do this instead because I want to.
Yeah.
Like, where did that instinct come from? Do you think it was just a natural part of your personality, or did you do a lot of reflecting and journaling? I think what you have is courage.
Yo, I appreciate that, man. Wow, thank you so much. That's a really nice compliment. I think, I don't know how you guys feel. Like, you guys are entrepreneurs as well.
Mike
like,
has no feelings.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a running joke that he's the Terminator. But yeah, the rest
if
of
you
us,
guys like, I feel like it's a common feeling for entrepreneurs or people who want to do something different. Like, if you're in a corporate job, you feel like you literally want to kill yourself, man. Like, it's, I don't know how else you can describe it. It's like, this is literally hell. I'm so miserable doing this. And every time I had a job where I was making money or doing something like by the book, I was just always dreaming about like, this is not what I want to do, man. Like, and now that I'm getting older, the more I'm realizing like I could do something in sales or real estate again, make a lot of money. But what really fulfills me is when people send me comments on my YouTube channel saying like, wow, Wesley, you're exactly the comment that you said, like, you're very brave for what you did. Your comment has changed my life. Thank you for sharing about everything. You know, like, a lot of your videos have made me rethink a lot of things about my life. Like, having impact and influence like that to me is a lot more powerful for money, at least for me personally. So like, once I got a little bit of taste of that, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Damn, dude, that's so fucking dope. And that almost came as like an after effect. Like, you needed to make the leap before, unless you were creating YouTube. Actually, you created YouTube after.
Yes.
You quit everything and dropped everything, right?
Yeah.
So,
my first video was when I left LA, actually. and I just did it for fun. I didn't see a future in it, but then over time, I realized, I actually think I can. I think I have a knack for storytelling, and I think I can see a future in this. So I just continue to pursue it.
Dude, 100%, man. Your storytelling is on point. Was that something that you studied, or like how did you consciously figure out how to tell your story in like a very insightful way, or were you just always like mindful and observant of different YouTube content?
That's a good question. I think just over time, after doing so many videos, you just kind of get better at it. And everybody likes a good storyteller, right? If you can captivate an audience or a YouTube audience, I think that translates really well to like everyday life too, because I think storytelling is great for sales. Storytelling is great for women. Storytelling is great for making friends, right? It's a good skill to have. So just over time, I've just cultivated it. I wouldn't say in the beginning I was good at it. Like I was always able to talk, but the storytelling thing, it definitely took years of practice and figuring out my voice.
Dude, yeah, you're so good at saying so much in so little. Like your videos are just concise, but they just like hit home really hard, and it really is like thought provoking as well. And I think that's an incredible skill, as you said.
Thank you, man. Wow, that's a very nice compliment. Thank you so much, man.
Dude, you did all the work. I'm just a messenger here, just from my observations. But
Thank you.
yeah, dude, it's super interesting. Just to like go off track for a second. Even Kobe Bryant, if for all the basketball fans out there, he wanted to work on his video productions to help the youth or the future of society through storytelling. He could have had an NBA coaching job. He could have made even more millions of dollars. But what he felt was the most impactful was to help the youth in this way through the Basketball Academy, and even won an Oscar through his work, which is insane, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, over the years, I've just realized how powerful and important storytelling is to every like facet of life as humans, because that's how we learn the best. And we even
100%.
have a good friend of ours who was in a program that we threw recently. He's actually moving to an AR startup that focuses primarily on helping people customize their storytelling by being able to put, for example, our baby photos or our youth photos or a photo of someone who's in their youth as the primary character or protagonist in whatever cartoon animation stories, so they can visualize and see how their development can unfold. And that company is like raising shit tons of money, and he actually had to bounce out to help go raise money like next week. So dude, yeah, what you harped on is like such a low-key, super valuable skill.
Right. Yeah, man. And I find that, I don't know if you guys feel this, right? Like when I was younger, there's this weird thing in the Asian culture where we focus so much on money, and it's like money is everything for us, right? Like if you don't have money, our parents, I don't know. That just seems to be like a very important thing. But I feel like living an interesting life is just so much of a more of a life fulfilled. What do you guys think about that?
You know, it's interesting because you wrote in your first video, once you realize your soul has left, it's your job to chase it. And I'm curious because I feel I relate with you a ton. I've definitely been in corporate environments where I put everything aside and then I sacrificed essentially my soul. And I was just like nebulously feeling unhappy, but I felt like that was the responsibility or duty that I had to do. And I have like a decent threshold for pain. So I'm just like, I'm like the frog in the boiling pot. I just didn't even realize it. But I was just like building that deep unhappiness until finally there were moments where it just was too much, right? So I'm definitely on board with you. Where do you think your soul came from? For me, while I buy you a few seconds to think here, I think in my upbringing, my parents tried to do such a good job to shield me from any sort of like issues around that. And so it gave me the space to, I guess, I don't know if I really had that much space to be my own human being, but not be as overly concerned, if that makes sense. So like I maybe have developed a soul in that way, or like I think the thing that I longed the most was connection, because that was the thing that I had the least of. I was so busy all the fucking time that I wasn't able to like hang out as much as like other guys were able to. And then the times, I've told these guys this story a million times, but the times that I did get to have play dates or go over to friends' houses, like I was just like so unsocialized. I couldn't even contribute to conversations without people just like staring in awkward silence. And I'd be like,
same.
fuck. Like if you just erase that 30 seconds from life, like nothing would have been lost and it would have been better, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like starting for that connection, it made me think of all the ways that I could connect with other people better. And that's where kind of the soul came from. Like, how do I add humor? How do I add light? How do I add joy? How to be funny? How do I be a good friend? Like, how do I get them to know me for me and stuff like that? So I think a lot of the thought process from there helped me develop people skills because that's what I was like wanting the most. But yeah, I'm curious for you, like, where did that soul side come from? Because Asians with that kind of parenting style, they either double down and then they become like the fucking biggest rainmakers, ever, or the most money-centric people to continue those family values, or they rebel completely like you have.
Right. Where did it come from? Something that I dislike about our culture is that we don't let our children be children, right? When they dance, we tell them to stop dancing. It's embarrassing. When they sing, we tell them to shut up because they're making a noise, right? And it's, man, how do I? That's such a hard question. I don't know if you guys feel this, right? But I think a lot of times, what people end up doing as an adult is something that they really wanted to do as a child, and society and our parents just beat that out of us, beat that dream out of us. But it's always been there. And I think once I realized, like when I was younger, I always knew that I was going to be important. I just didn't know how I was going to make that impact. And just over time, it slowly revealed itself. It's like, okay, God gave me the talent for music. And when I would show people my music, I can move them emotionally. And they were like, Wesley, this is what you have to be doing. And just even though my parents didn't believe in my musical talent or I wasn't getting that, like I saw the impact I was having. And I guess I just slowly started listening to my intuition. And I think if you listen to your intuition enough, in the beginning, it's very difficult, but it's kind of like a muscle. You train it. So in the beginning, it's hard, but the more that you do it, the stronger that voice becomes, and the easier it is to recognize when your intuition is speaking to you.
Dude, that is so fucking deep. And I'm really glad that you like were attuned to it. Like it sounds like you're very attuned to energy.
Yes.
I remember you said something like, oh, the energy of the environment was off. I think you were in LA.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that was like fascinating because it's so easy in this day and age to be so disconnected with our senses because of technology or distractions or just like the ADD like pace of life.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, like, yeah, I hope you don't think I'm like trying to deconstruct you or like find like
No, yeah,
like
that's cool. It's cool. I
or
like
anything.
the
I'm just yeah, like fascinated by like what makes people the way they are, especially for the better, right? Or even our flaws, like where do they come from, right? And then how do we not let our stories run our lives?
Right.
But yeah, just the sense that you're so in tune with yourself to then be able to listen to that voice and then build that courage or like trust in yourself, especially in Asian environments where we have like dictators as parents, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I guess
I was gonna say that. Sorry, I was gonna say that how I developed that skills because when I was younger, I guess I didn't realize it looking back, but my parents fought quite a bit, and especially my dad because my dad went through a lot of financial stress and troubles. When he was stressed, he would lash out on us a lot. So I would see him fighting with my mom, and I became really in tune to the energy and vibe of the house because if I could sense that something was up, no matter what I did, if I just went outside, if my dad saw me, he would look for me and then just try to start shit, just like try to yell at me and
sounds like Mike.
And just start just to let shit out, right? So he would come at me, and then now I'm as an adult, I realized what he was doing, so I don't take it personally anymore. But at the time, as a kid, all you see is your parent yelling at you. So that's why I became very sensitive to the vibe and the energy of how to read people because I had to do that with my parents to avoid conflict. That's something I just recently realized, actually. I don't know if you guys have a similar thing.
Do you guys want to chime in? I've been hogging the mic a lot. No, Mike has no parents. He was generated by himself. He gave birth to himself. He's like Asian Chuck Norris. It was like the Big Bang. And then
We can save my interview for another episode.
Fair enough. David, do you want to jump in?
I guess for me, it was more about like my parents not being there as much. They were always working. So it was more like that. So I wasn't really in tune. And for me, like in terms of like attunement of sensations and like feelings, emotions, I had to learn later in life because I was not exposed to that early in
Right.
life. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, also, I want to make another point. When I was younger, I was the shortest guy in my class until I was like 15, 16 years old. So like girls never paid attention to me. I had a lot of female friends growing up, which I don't now because I think female friends are a waste of time. We can talk about that. But like when I was younger, but when I was younger, I had a
Story here.
female,
Drama.
yeah, I just
Hey,
had a
we
lot
gotta
of
hear the
female
story.
friends, right? What's up? What
Yeah.
you gonna say?
We got to hear the story behind when you realized that conclusion.
Oh,
Where did
okay,
that
yeah, okay,
conclusion
yeah, we
come
can talk about that. But yeah, when I
Oh,
was younger, I hung out with a lot of women, and I think it was good at the time because when you hang out with women and like you don't want to fuck them, they don't want to fuck you. They're very open about things, and they let you in on a bunch of game, like how women think, how to read situations, because women are excellent at that. Women's intuition is like a superpower. It's crazy. So once you like talk to them and you understand how they think, like I think that was really good for me, just developing my personality and how to talk to people, how to talk to women. And then as I got older, the looks came later. So it made me like a fucking animal because like I had the personality first, and then now I have the looks to back it up. So like now it's a lot easier to get women. But it was because when I was younger, I was like I didn't get any women, so I decided like I wanted to work on it. Yeah. Sorry.
So what were the environments that allowed you to surround yourself with girls back in the day when you were younger? Because when I was a kid, I didn't have any girls in my vicinity. I was just like trapped inside. Was it music or like was there other avenues that created a space where you had more opportunities?
That's a good question. No, I just like the friend group that I had in high school was just a bunch of, it was like mostly girls and a couple of dudes. I don't know how I ended up there, but that's just kind of how it was. But they all saw me as just like the harmless guy that none of them were attracted to. Because I was just short, and so they opened up to me. But as I got older, like when I was a junior and senior, then I ended up hooking up with all of them. But that was like that came much later, right?
Had the hit list.
Were they mostly Asians or white, Latina? What was the demographics?
Mostly Asian. A couple of Latina girls, and then like a Filipino girl, I think.
A wise man once said Latinas and white girls are his kryptonite. When did you first realize that about yourself? Did my homework, dog.
You did, bro. Holy shit.
Like, fuck, it's too early for this shit.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna be real. I'm just not super attracted to the Asian body, like thin, slim. I've just always kind of like thicker girls. I don't. I know where that comes from, but I'm not going to talk about that in this podcast. But I've always liked like thicker girls, and just as great as Asians are, I'm not saying that they're ugly because they're obviously beautiful. It's just not my style.
You prefer the chocolate over Asians?
Whoa! Let's not get carried away. No, I'm kidding. No, I like black girls too. Well, because I think I might get canceled for this. There's a difference between American black girls and then black girls all over the world. It's a very diverse like race, right? So you can get girls from Africa, you can get girls from the Caribbean, and then I say this like when I was in the U.S., I wasn't fond of black women because they were like overweight and they kind of had an attitude. But then you go to Colombia and then you see how black women are supposed to look like actually, or go to Brazil, then I'm just like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, they really are different because I've been to Africa quite a few times, and personality wise, black women in America are so different than black women in Africa or other parts of the world. It's not even, and even in Africa, they don't even identify as like when a black person from the US visits Africa, like they see like from color, they're very similar, but like the natives in Africa, they see them as a completely like they see them as almost like white people from America.
It's
That's
true.
how distinct.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I've done a few
deep.
consultations, right? And then and I connect like us as Asian people, we connect more. How do I say no? Sorry, I've met people from Nigeria, from the Caribbean, and they connect more to us as Asian people than they do to Black Americans, even though they look the same. Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's values. It's about values.
Super interesting, man. I guess I can also kind of relate as like an Asian American coming to Asia in terms of the stark differences. However, having
Yes.
immigrant parents, we still have that like link and that like understanding
Yes.
and familiarity. So
Right.
I also can relate, and there are things that I appreciate a lot, like the respect and the consideration, just the service-based
discipline.
cultures out here, and obviously the conformity and just like overbearing sort of dictatorial like upbringing and all that shit is stuff that like I don't like as much. And but like you, I think I realized it all comes from a good place. And we talked about this a little bit in our last pod, going through the Asian masculinity thread on Reddit. But I think Asian parents, yes, their status that drives a lot of the culture in terms of like what they do, in terms of perception and looking good and being like respected. But I think a lot of that is also love, and it's intertwined, and it's like hard to separate because how well people are treated and accepted and being a good contributing member of society and being revered for that is also something that your life experience and the quality of your life is heavily relied on, especially in Asian culture.
Yes.
So if our parents are setting us up to be able to be outstanding and the competition is fierce, then also being able to just be that role model and paradigm for everybody else.
Yes.
They're just doing their best to help us live a good life.
Exactly. And
Even if it's
be
hard.
good adults. Yeah. And I noticed this actually after my time in Latin America. Being in Colombia made me really appreciate our Asian values. Because I remember, because Latin America, it's great, right? They're very free, they're very open, but it's incredibly unsafe. They don't trust one another. The single motherhood crisis in Latin America is ridiculous, you know. And it seems like they don't
Thanks to
value
you.
honor as much. Sorry, what was that?
I was like, you're like, there are all these single mothers in Colombia. I was like, thanks to you. But you
Yeah.
bounced out. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
The new
But it's
Genghis
true, it's
Khan
true,
over
right?
here. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when my cousins came to Colombia, and my cousins, they all have good jobs. They're all disciplined. We're all fit, right? And I remember my Colombian friends just looking at us at all. They're like, oh my God, like it's crazy that we have our stuff together so young, because, you know, Latins, they may love really well, but a lot of times the men stay at home until they're 30, 35 years old, and they have no desire to leave the house. You know, a lot of Colombian women complain that their men are lazy or players or stuff like that. And then I look at the Asian guys that I grew up with and my family, and it's like, dude, all things considered, we're doing really well. Like the values that our parents really ingrained in us from a young age set us up to be successful human beings and adults everywhere in the world, right? We may struggle socially, but when it comes to raising a family, providing for a family, I can't say that my family really struggled for money, because my parents made very good financial decisions, and they've imparted a lot of really good values onto us that I really appreciate now.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, one of the things is like front loading all the work, right? When you're a
Yes.
kid, that's one of the things with like the
Yeah.
bringing up thing, right? Like they front load your life and don't have a childhood as good as other people. But then in the back end, you like see all the returns.
Yes,
Right.
100%.
Wes loves front loading so much. That's why he likes being on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoken like a
I
true
agree with
bottom.
that.
Spoken like a true bottom.
Hey, I
I-
didn't say.
I definitely agree with that, because I think when I was young, looking back, I always thought I had the worst childhood, right? But as an adult, it's like, oh, okay, well, sure, maybe I didn't develop socially, but because I had a good career, because I had a lot of foundational stuff, you
Yeah.
can just invest some of your money into developing. You know, you
100%.
can take
Yeah.
Toastmasters, you can take improv classes. But if if you never had an education, you never developed your career, you're kind of just stuck in life with everything, right? So I think smaller problems as an adult, if you become aware and conscious of it, you can, you can allocate resources to brush up on minor skill sets. So
Exactly, right. Yeah. I agree
There's
with
this CIA agent who's been making his YouTube rounds and showing up on different podcasts, Andrew Bustamante, and he talked about how
okay.
the CIA targets people who have just enough trauma growing up where they turn into high achievers, but don't have too much trauma where they cope with external sources like drugs or alcohol. And
Oh, wow.
I think Asian upbringing, it's like all trauma. It's like, we're scarred from the battles of childhood. having no friends and just getting all A minuses and still getting our ass kicked, right? And in some way, shape, or form, even though that was something that we reflect on with a lot of pain, I think as we age, we look on it with a lot of gratitude because, like we all have acknowledged, it comes with so many benefits. It's really hard to get your shit together when you don't have that. Like it's hard to change your ways when you've been at home, like lazy piece of shit. I'm not gonna say lazy piece of shit. It's like sometimes out of your control as a person. But like not having that fire or work ethic driven underneath you, like because we all had it, we can continue it. We still all do. Like look at us all hustling like early in the morning in Thailand when most people come here for vacation, right? But it's also like easy to ride off of that success too later in life and focus on other areas of life as well. And I do think that because of that, we all have this sense of gratitude for our growth and a need to contribute. The biggest pain points in our life have become part of our purpose. I think a big part of why we're all like very socialized is because we had that deep pain. And because of that, we become even more, I guess, driven to be able to help others who we relate to in this way, regardless of their race, regardless if they're Asian or a rice field rebel or a fucking Barnyani rebel or a Colombian, you know, Habichuela rebel, right? Or even girls too.
Paella rebel.
Or the paella rebel over here, right? And being able to live life on our own terms is like something that we all greatly value and appreciate. Like you, man, like you said, it's like all about having our souls intact and feeding it.
Yes.
So
yeah, I hear that.
I want to talk about Colombia.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, we can talk about Colombia.
Yeah, wait, Wes, go for it. It sounds like you had some thoughts here before you.
I was gonna say the thing that I love most about Asian culture. Well, Thailand not so much. Well, actually, kind of Thailand, but for us, discipline is instilled from the beginning, right? And you don't understand how great that is until you grow up. And for me, it was in Latin America. It's like it's feelings and passion and great, but discipline for them is so hard. And then as an adult trying to learn it is so difficult. But for us, it's just normal, right? Being punctual, the importance of like staying healthy, right? Well, I don't know about you guys, but like all these things.
Says the other guys who are like, oh yeah, hold on, I'm gonna sleep another 30 minutes without doxing people. I made my grab ride this morning. I'm just gonna say that out loud. Anyway.
I worked too hard yesterday night.
Oh, so it's cool when you're late, but not me. Okay.
Yeah,
motherfuckers.
Being punctual in Latin America is definitely, you know, even on going on dates, sometimes you have to lie and just be like, hey, let's meet at 5 p.m. But really, you mean 7 p.m. You know, you got to give them like a 2-hour head start. It's just like, you got to play the chess game. You know, like whoever you're dating, you secretly set their alarms like 2 hours early just so
we had to
make it on time.
Ubers to the girls to make sure they get in.
There's nothing that makes you have to be a NASA rocket scientist to plan a party in Colombia because like getting 10 Colombian girls to show up on time is like it's like you got to use AI like 2 terabyte quantum computing to figure out because one of our buddies he started a harem in Colombia, and it was a challenge. It was a very logistical challenge, but it was a learning experience. It's almost like running a business, almost getting people to show up on time. So
perfect segue to Colombia. So you had this itch. You were looking for your kryptonite in spades out there. What was it about Colombia? I think it speaks for itself that made that the place that you wanted to go immediately after bouncing out from LA.
Well, actually, how I ended up in Colombia was a chance. So I was looking at Mexico or Colombia because for me, it was important just to learn Spanish. Like that was my primary goal, right? And then one morning I woke up, I got a notification for a one-way ticket to Bogota to Colombia for $180. So I was like, all right, well, I guess that's a sign that I wanted. So I just bought it. And then that's when I started selling all my things.
Damn.
So that's how I ended up there. But then once I arrived, I was like, you guys went to Medellin, right? Like I know Mike, you been to Medellin, right? Yeah.
Yep.
There's a freaking something about like once you get out of the airport, you look at the city for the first time, it's magic. There's a charm about the city that hooks you right away. So I fell in love with it. And I think that a lot of expats who are the biggest supporters of Colombia are still kind of stuck in that fantasy. The reason why I left and I have the perspective that I do is because I learned too much about the culture. So my Spanish is so good now, so I know what the country is actually like. I can talk to anybody from everywhere. So I'm like, oh, now I understand why Colombians want to leave Colombia, right? And being a citizen and, you know, getting married and doing all the visa stuff and having to deal with paperwork, bureaucracy, everything, I'm just like, oh, okay, I can understand it now. So it almost like in the beginning it was great, but the more that I learned about it, the more I realized like I just know too much now. So that's why it kind of ruined the experience for me.
What are the things? Because first of all, like your Spanish is amazing. I've heard a couple of interviews and stuff, like in 3 years, right?
Yes, 3 years in.
That's crazy.
Can we
Like,
get some Spanish dialogue?
very good.
Can we get some
Super.
habla español? in this
Hablamos en
podcast?
español si quieres.
Sí, sí, podemos seguir hablando en
quieres.
español, no hay problema. Sí.
Sí, sí,
Y
sí.
podemos,
O sea,
sí.
déjame decirte que tu español, o sea, está de puta madre. En 3 años has aprendido demasiado. Tienes acento colombiano, ¿sabes?
Sí, sí, gracias.
Y
Sí.
te has adaptado a la cultura súper, o sea, demasiado. Y
Gracias.
eso es lo que no tiene la gente que va a Colombia y llega y simplemente es un turista. Tú te has metido dentro de la cultura, has intentado entenderla, has aprendido el idioma y todo lo demás.
Sí, claro. Es que pues
Very
son varias cosas. Primero, yo creo que un asiático aprendiendo español es,
Sí.
pues tú naciste en España. Yo creo que ahí
Sí.
es más normal, pero en Colombia casi no hay asiáticos. Entonces un
Mm.
chino, más de todo, chino llega
Sí.
y aprende español. Yo creo, pues iba a ser como la locura. Y es
Sí.
algo que yo quería mostrar a nuestra gente también, que es posible aprender otro idioma que no solo es en Asia, ¿cierto? Okay, we can continue in English now.
Yeah.
These guys are all like,
I mean, like, Colombia,
Me gusta
Super
latinas.
demasiado.
Eres muy linda.
Colombians can appreciate it a lot, like when you actually go and try
Exactly.
and get into the culture.
¿Tienes
Right.
novio?
And,
Te gusta.
There you go. And also, the way that I travel, right? When I travel, I don't like just doing a bunch of touristy stuff or just going to the party scene. Like, I really want to know what the culture is like, what the locals live like, try to get involved. And oh, this guy just turned on music. Can you guys hear the music, or is it still
No.
okay?
No, not at all.
No.
You're good.
Okay.
you're good.
Yeah, and then I feel like Colombia, if you don't speak Spanish, you only get 10% of the experience. Once you learn the language, you get access to all the women in the country, all of Latin
Yeah.
America. People let
Yeah.
you in, and it's like people are a lot
100%.
nicer and receptive to you if you speak the language. Right?
Yeah. The families just like accept you and like they bring you to their parties and like their family
Yes.
gatherings and stuff.
How many families have you
So-
met, bro? Hágale pues.
That's how you.
I mean,
But,
through my wife, I met a lot of families through the church, you know, and then also,
Mm.
you know, after you know, your bottom experience and me being on top, you know, I think I need to meet your
Yeah,
family.
that's what she
In your
said. What?
dreams, you fantasizing out here, Wes. You need to come to Bali for that. That ass.
Yeah, no, I met quite a bit, but also in Latin America, like meeting the family, even if you're just talking, is very common, right? Like if you're just like kind of seeing each other, maybe he had sex once or twice, dude, you're gonna be invited to those family parties. That's just how Latin America is.
But yeah, 100%.
You know what's crazy? Even that 10% when you don't speak Spanish is like 200% in America. You know?
Yeah.
The girls on
Jesus.
Fresh and Fit are like literally unable to list 3 states, 3 countries. So a
Right.
little bit of
I'm curious, what was your process for learning Spanish? Was it like you learned a little bit, then you went to Colombia, or did you learn a lot of it when you got there?
I didn't know any Spanish when I arrived. So I
Oh,
took advantage
shit.
of the. So it was various things. So it was essentially 4 to 6 hours of practice for 6 months straight, and then once I got that foundation, it was just living my life in Colombia, and I just slowly refined it. It was a combination of I took some lessons, but how I did it was I would take lessons for a week, and then I would break practice, and then I would go back and then take lessons again. I feel like that's because if you're in the classroom studying like 4 hours in a day, the last thing you want to do is go home and practice. So that's why I did it that way. I also taught English to Colombians for like 3 months, and that helped a lot because I was constantly translating back and forth between English and Spanish, and I was getting paid to do it. So I would do that for like 3 to 4 hours a day, and then afterwards, because of the pandemic, I would just interact with my roommates. So we would talk, we would play cards, yeah, just basic day to day stuff, and then eventually I would date women, and then I would get better that way. And then once I got married and into the church, my whole entire life was around Spanish, so 10 to 12 hours a day, all in Spanish, and then I just eventually got better.
Wow.
Man, that just shows that I mean, like everyone can do it
Yeah,
if
6
they
months.
put it enough effort.
And with enough
100%,
trauma in your
100%.
upbringing to make you a good student and a smart individual.
Amen
Yes,
to that,
anybody
bro.
can do it. Anybody can do it.
However,
Just be born
I
with
do have to
Asian
say something,
parents.
I do have to say, when learning Spanish, it was easier for us because I already knew Hokkien and Mandarin. A lot of gringos or white people struggle with Spanish because they're just not familiar with the sounds. So let me give you a good example, right? Tango is like a soft T. Americans say it as tango, but it's like a TH sound. And the best thing I can compare it to, in Mandarin, we have that sound. It's like tai or
Tai.
jidao, right? It's like a soft T. It's the exact same sound over. And plus, in Mandarin, we also have tones. In Spanish, to say past tense, it's a tone mark. People can't like literally a lot of white people can't hear it because they just haven't been exposed to that sound. But because we grew up with that, it was a lot easier for me to pick up on it.
All right, all the Mandarin speakers.
Dude, I also think that it sounds like you had a musical background, and probably music
Yeah.
enhanced your capacity to hear and like have like nuances in sounds. So maybe it was easier for you to pick up on those types of differences.
Let's see. Order food? No, just more water. More water. What? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, they want me to talk less. Wow. Did you hear the? Can you hear the music now?
No,
really.
not
No,
really.
it's good.
You're good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Cool.
it's working really
So
well.
you speak Mandarin? That's your primary Asian language?
Hokkien. Hokkien is the main one.
Hokkien. Okay, that's like southern.
Like
Whatchamacallit,
Fujian.
right?
Yeah.
It's like okay.
Hokkien.
Super interesting.
浙江. Is it?
Oh. Okay. Now I
Fujian.
gotta move because this guy's kicking me out.
Okay.
1 sec.
They're putting music on. But I think that's from.
That's cool. 4 hours a day, 6 months.
Fujian.
I think I can do it.
I would love to do that.
All right, time to be fluent in Spanish before next program.
Work on the VSL.
That
in Mexico City.
Work on Hyros. Work on integrating the ads.
Okay. Sorry, what was that? What you got?
Libros, Más libros.
Do you want to make money?
But that's crazy. Like learning a language in like I mean
3
like
years?
3 years.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great clip.
That's
Your
so
Spanish
cool.
sounds different than other people's Spanish. Got that. Hi, I'm Sean Connery.
Como-
Kind of. Sounds like.
I'm from Andalusia. Soy Madrileña.
Soy Castellano.
But I mean like in terms of like
Barcelona.
the language and everything, like what are some of the things that you discovered? You're like, okay, like this is a little piece of like gold that I discovered because I speak Spanish, and other people from America that go to Colombia, they've never experienced just because like they don't speak the language. What are like a couple of the things you can share?
Like to learn a new language or to
In terms of like things that you discovered and before you learned Spanish, you were like, oh, like oblivious to them.
Yeah, I guess in like what meaningful ways has your Spanish capacity
Oh, okay.
changed
yeah.
your experience in Colombia, for example? I mean, it basically got you married, it got you divorced, it made you leave. Like, so like dude, that's
Yeah.
like a whole another life experience.
Okay, so what's interesting is that learning Spanish is literally a whole entire different way of thinking, because Spanish is like the grammar is different. And even okay, so I actually had this conversation with one of my buddies. Is that I think like the how a language is dictates how a country's culture is. So for example, in Spanish, sí means yes, but it also means maybe, and that's very similar to how Latino people are. They'll be like yes, it's kind of like how they feel in the moment, but yes, maybe. For example, ahorita, right? What does that mean? Does that mean now? Does that mean later? Does that mean right now? Like it's always just like
now.
fresh, right? It's very, very fresh. So it just makes you think differently, man.
Esposas.
And
Wife.
uh,
Handcuffs.
it's yeah. Well, yeah. No, yeah. But how did it change
Break
my
the
experience?
shackles.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a hard question to say.
Sure.
I think I like.
Do you want to?
I live my life trying to live like I just want to live an extraordinary life, and I don't want to be like everybody else. And I noticed that everybody else in Colombia just didn't want to learn the language, or and I saw a bunch of people making YouTube videos talking about Colombian culture, but they don't fucking speak a word of Spanish. So I'm just like, I really want to get to the bottom of this and make video content that is actually comes from experience, not just like the superficial version of Colombia, right? So I guess that was one of my motivations too. And plus, Colombian women are so hot. I was like, okay, man, I kind of want to, I kind of want to see what's up.
Dude, on that note, were there any special challenges? Not knowing the language, you're in a new country, you're dating. Did you like hold off on the dating while you were learning, or did you do it at the same time? And maybe, yeah.
Well, it's hard to say because when I was there and learning, it was because of COVID, right? So, so when I first arrived, I was going out. I was doing fine. I was doing well with women. I wasn't dating, but I was like seeing women here and there. But it was weird though, going on a few dates, just doing Google Translate and stuff, and like I was able to hook up with like one girl, but then I went on another date. It was just really, really weird.
Details, my man.
I don't know. Yeah.
Wait, what made it weird? Was it like just a cultural difference, or you're accustomed to Colombian girls being a certain way? Was it because she came 3 hours late? You didn't know how to be on top yet?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
For me personally, right? I attach a lot of emotion to sex, and as I get older, right, I've had enough sexual partners already that like sleeping with another girl, it doesn't interest me. I want to have some form of emotional connection with her, and if I want to be able to like get to know the girl, I can't expect her to learn English. And if she does learn English, I'm thinking like, okay, how many other gringos has this girl been with, right? So I'm like, I want to be able to talk to the girls that no other gringos have access to, and learning Spanish is pretty much the only way you can do that.
G codes.
Interesting,
Cool.
dude. I love how we're on this topic. Should we dive into like the views that you have on dating? And I know that's a very broad area, but this is where Mike's heating up right now too. He's like,
Getting
pass the
excited.
mic.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff.
Yeah, let's do
There's
it.
a lot of guys that are inexperienced with dating. They don't see the nuances in all this. They see a girl that's
Yes.
into them, they get super excited, but they don't see the other side, right? You're totally right. Like a girl, sometimes in our programs, they have like multiple people interacting, and we look at each other's like Bumble and Tinder, and it's like, holy shit, we have 10 dudes matching the same girl. And we've had like
Yes.
a story where the same girl went on like 5 dates with 5 of our friends, like back to back, like Monday through Friday. She went to a date with each one of us.
Dude,
You
one
know?
of
It's
the
crazy.
girls
Exactly.
was on a date and came over
Right.
to the villa and then banged another dude. I was like in a room nearby. We're just like, holy shit.
But it is crazy how, like, I don't want to speak names, but one of our friends, he had so much, he experienced so much in Colombia, but it's almost kind of like you, he saw too much that he got a little bit traumatized. He went from one end of the spectrum to the other. He went from seeing so much craziness in Cali, Colombia, to like very similar to you. And then he went to Asia, and he went the whole like wholesome route to the point where he didn't even want to meet girls who had a lot of social media presence. He wanted girls, like, he didn't want to even meet girls who had online dating profiles, because that is so true, that when a girl has so much experience, it's like, if you add a girl and she's in Colombia and all her friends lists are like white dudes and they all fit a certain archetype, it's just like, okay,
Yes.
it's just like, it just says so much, right?
Yeah, I like what you said about it. There's levels to it, right? So I think like if you have zero experience with dating, you just want to get a girl to like you. Then the next level is to get a girl to sleep with you. Then the next level is to get an attractive girl to sleep with you. Then once you've slept with enough attractive girls, is getting a high quality attractive girl to sleep with you. Now, then the ultimate layer is like getting a high quality woman that doesn't have a big past, who own, like, exclusivity becomes very important once you get to the higher tier, right? But I feel like most men are just, they just want to get laid, so that's why they're kind of
Yeah.
stuck at like the lower stuff. But after I've had like several bad experiences with women,
Mhm.
and especially because I have an online presence, all it takes is one false accusation and you're done,
Yep.
right? And I had something similar to that. I was dating this black Colombian girl, and she had like these cool braids and stuff. And then one day when we were together, she took them off and she was like bald. And I literally lost all attraction for her. On top of the fact that she told me her body count, and I just almost threw up. So like a couple of those things, I ended up breaking up with her. I thought I did it in a good way, and I thought I did it in a good way. And then she started spreading rumors that I was like, that I was abusive, that I was calling her a bunch of shit, and that I was racist and all
Yeah.
these things. And it started getting around in the Medellin expat groups. So it just taught me the lesson to like, oh man, I got to be very picky and careful with the women I let into my
Yeah.
life, because us as men, you guys know how it is. Like women are always believed, no matter, like they can just lie about some shit and fuck us all up. So it's just not worth it anymore, you know?
Do you make them sign NDAs?
Yeah, totally. The more money you make, the more advanced you grow, the bigger your social media, the more you gotta protect yourselves. Like especially we had a thing in Brazil where we had threw a party, and some of the girls, you know, they kind of knew some of the guys in our party were like successful. But anyways, it's very similar to what you said, that you know, not every, you know, they could be spreading rumors and things like that. So I definitely shared real life experiences on that front.
Right.
Yeah, and the sad
Exactly.
part is like a lot of the times they don't even ask about the story, right? Like the guy's story is
Yes.
just like, oh yeah, whatever. And then the girl's story is like, oh, like tell me more, tell me more. Oh, how did you get like abused or whatever, right? So
Yes.
hopefully, like I think things are turning and things are slowly but surely changing, but it takes time. It's just
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
yeah, you need like that pushback in time.
Yeah, man. Us as men, we always get villainized, right? If you think about it, like women use their past to mythologize them. They're like, oh, I went through this. He was abusive. He was manipulative, right? Men are always villainized when they talk, like
Yeah.
when they're talking about our past. And the older you get, the more you have to lose. It's like, am I really gonna try to risk this for some pussy? Nah,
Yeah.
bro. It's shit ain't worth it. I'd rather just beat off and go to bed. If God, it's less headache, less stress.
You should have said the same thing.
Also, it's like girls' emotional states, they change, right? So my friend, he's a YouTuber, and
Yes.
you know, he goes on these nice trips once in a while, and the girls that he'll date at the time, you know, he'll take them on these like boat vacation trips to islands, and you know, he'll be like,
Mm.
hey, can I vlog this and put it on my YouTube? And the girl at the time is always, they're always like, yeah, I love to be on your vlog, it's a lot of fun. This is
Yes.
so cool, I can wear a bikini and we can travel around. But you know, like 5 years down the road, they're not together anymore. Now she's dating some dude, you know, now she's dating some sugar daddy, and now she's sensitive to what he thinks. And now, you know, and she's like, oh, all the stuff in our past, we went on vacation. Can you private, or can you delete all the videos? But then it's like, hold on, wait a minute. You enjoy that part of your life, right? And like you agreed to it, but now you can't retrospectively, you know, but girls will do that, where they're kind of like
Yes.
double dipping, and they'll use parts of it that benefit them, right? And so some of my friends,
Exactly.
when they're dating somebody, they'll like have a verbal like agreement saying, like, he actually has his girlfriend say in front of video, hey, I allow X, Y, and Z to vlog. And they actually read the document and they sign it, because you never know, 2 years down the road, they could just change their minds.
Exactly. Right. And then, yeah.
100%. Like a lot of the times now it's like they're taking advantage, abusing the power because they have it. They just like,
Yes.
or they're born with it. and we are seeing this slowly but surely. I mean, like, just because you're a girl nowadays, it's just like so many things are okay to do. But
Yes.
that is one of the things with like boundaries, right? uh Whenever you, boundaries and expectations. So whenever you get into a relationship, it's very important to like talk about boundaries and expectations, so that
For sure.
later in the relationship they understand, like, hey, like, you can do this, you cannot do this, like, I will accept this or I will not accept this. They will test you,
Right.
and that is very interesting.
Yes.
Let's see
But
where they can
that's some
push.
higher level game though. That's some higher level game,
Mm,
right? Like you have to have a
yeah,
lot of experience with
100%.
women as a man to get there because
Yeah,
most men will put up with anything. They're just happy to get the puss, right? So let's be honest. Like we
yeah,
all know guys like that.
yeah, yeah.
So the question now begs, how can we identify those red flags early? How can we screen for these types of qualities beforehand so we don't put ourselves in these precarious positions, or we're able to catch them and bounce out from that situation? So you said something interesting in one of your videos. You said, hey, wait, do you guys need me to repeat that because my mic was off?
Yeah, I don't know what the heck happened.
Okay, I'm not sure. So
Please.
now the question begs: how do we catch these red flags early so we can prevent ourselves from becoming in these for putting ourselves in these precarious positions, right? Or be able to identify them early enough to bounce out. You said something interesting in one of your early videos. You said you don't really know a person, or maybe it was one of your friends that said this. You don't really know a person
Yeah.
until you slept with them, travel with them, or live with them, right?
Yes.
And so, in your experience, what are some of the biggest red flags or even the subtle ones that you can now identify or catch that you weren't able to before that would make you, I guess, leave a situation early enough now? Besides no hair and fake wig.
Yeah. So okay. So I understand the question. I think it's a very nuanced topic because everybody has different traumas and everybody has different triggers. So what may be a red flag for one person will not necessarily be a red flag for another person, right? For me personally, daddy issues is a real thing. When a woman doesn't have a dad in her life, I don't know why it's like it's common knowledge, right? And I thought that because my wife, she has daddy issues, but because of the church and everything, she always assured to me that it wasn't going to be an issue, that she overcame it. But once I saw the behavior afterwards, I realized that actually no, she just uses religion as a crutch to say that, oh, she actually took, like, God took care of her, but really she hasn't done the inner work. I think a good universal advice for all men is that don't pay attention to what a woman says, but pay attention to what she does. Because a lot of times women will, especially if they're interested in you, they'll say all the things that they know that you'll like to hear because they want you. But then once you start paying attention to how they like actually move, and you're gonna notice that the actions say a lot more than just what they say about themselves. It's because I don't think, okay, this can sound fucked up, but in between men there's like a code or like an honor, right? Obviously there's men that are snakes, but I think there's a different level of honor in between men that women don't really have. um it's not to say they don't have honor, but it's just a different level. What other red flags?
Totally understand that. Like bro code, mutual respect, not trying to like snipe each other's
Yeah.
girls if we're friends with each other, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I hate, yeah.
Yeah, and also
Oh
I
yeah,
think
here's
like
another one.
we're
Oh, sorry,
more
go ahead.
straight
Go
to the
ahead, go
point.
ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, we're more straight
Go
to the
ahead.
point, whereas like they're a little bit more emotional. So you can take
Yes.
one thing and like the perspective changes, right? So you
Yes.
change
Yeah,
the
that's true.
perspective
That's
and
true.
like the meaning changes.
Yes, right. It's like in between men, if I have a problem with you, I'll just say it directly. And we may have an issue in the moment, but after we sort it out, it's like, you good, bro? We good. All right, handshake. Women carry that shit, bro. Like a lot of women, if they feel a type of way about it, they'll hold that grudge, right? Um, and another, like, I think this is the biggest one. When I decided to be married, I was in a very unstable place. I was in a new country all by myself. I had no roots. I had no relationship with my family, really. I had to depend on my wife for a lot of things, not financially, but just like for stability. I looked to her for stability. And I think because of that, I mistook love for stability. Like what I thought was love in the moment was actually just me not wanting to lose my stability. And it's hard to
Damn.
see it in the moment, but afterwards it's like now I know what to look for, but in the moment it was very hard to see it because I thought I really loved her, you know.
Damn, dude. Yeah, I totally understand that. Like these red flags that you're talking about and catching them earlier, like not tolerating them is so much harder when we are in unstable places. And also when there is an
Yes.
actual love and affection that was created for this other person. Right.
Yes.
Like I was able to tolerate much more because it was so hard to disentangle those two things, right? Like real values and love, but also like, yeah, like you said, if the person can say that they can make a change or this or that, right? But then it's so hard. It's so hard when people are comfortable. They're not used to changing their ways. And like it really often
Yes.
takes like a breakup or a massive painful event for people to then like look inside and actually start changing or read the books that we were telling them to read to be able to grow alongside with
Right.
them.
Right.
Right. It's like it's just
Yeah.
human nature at this point. I realize like too much comfort is actually the biggest killer of incentives. And I know it sounds kind of like a corporate thing or like an impersonal thing to talk about incentives in dating and relationships. But in actuality, just as much as economics tie into relationships, so do incentives, right? Like when
Yes,
I think a
it's
lot of
true.
guys are afraid to get married out in the West because the incentive is then killed for the girl to be able to like keep on her best, game. Right.
It's
Like
true.
once they're locked
Yeah.
in, like women joke about, oh, he's trapped. Like, you got him.
Literally,
You got a
literally,
girl,
yeah.
like you don't have to worry about anything. Like, and then that's when they let themselves go. And obviously women, if you guys are on the stream, we're overgeneralizing. This is a common theme, there's a trend. Maybe this applies to the masses in general. Maybe you're the exception and just realize that, hey, this has
Right.
just been our experiences being in 40 different countries or so, maybe even more combined,
Yes.
and dating around the world, looking for true love, of course, and to improve ourselves as men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are
I
people who
do
are
want
really
to say
curious.
that. Yeah. Oh,
No,
sorry.
no, go for it. Go for it. No.
No, I was gonna
please.
say that. Yeah, I what you said was correct. Like all women are not like this, but I think the fact that when I was saying all the struggles that I've gone through, all of you guys were nodding your head like, "Yep, we've all gone through that." Just comes to show that like there are common behaviors and things that we've all experienced.
Dude,
Yeah.
spot on, man. And like for me, one of them, I know this one's hard to disentangle as well because it's not the biggest red flag, but it's a red flag to me now. But women speak emotionally, right? And I'm a very empathic guy, so I love that. However, a lot of times women in dating will manipulate you by guilt tripping you as a way to have you
Yeah.
feel what they're feeling.
Yes.
And on one hand, when you're in that and you're sucked into that place and you actually care and love this person, it's really hard to just be like, wait a second, that's not fucking cool. We want to do right by them and make them feel happy. It's like kind of a natural instinct or duty to do that, right?
Yes.
And it's not to say that we're
100%,
suckers or we're
yeah.
simping, but that was like one of the hardest things to realize in the moment because you just feel what they feel, and that's why they're good at it, right? That's why like men are more physical creatures, women are more empathic, right? And so they actually have a leg up and can
Yeah.
run around guys in circles in terms of like getting what they want.
100%.
And so for me, when I
Yes.
see a girl communicates conflict in that manner, I just shut that shit down right away. I'm like, hey, look, you're manipulating me
Mm.
right now. You're trying to emotionally make me feel what you're feeling or the pain. This is not constructive. If we actually care about each other,
Right.
we want to be able to resolve this. I understand you. This is the problem
Yes.
that you might be feeling. Is this actually founded or unfounded? Okay. And like try to shift it to a logical place. Whether we have the
Yes.
capacity to
Good,
resolve
yeah.
these things is another question. But I'm realizing it is better to kind of like remove ourselves from the situation and not invite drama. Right. And like you said, be very selective
Exactly.
of who we attach ourselves with, because the wrong girl can like break down everything, right? Or like start wars and shit.
Literally,
And
bro.
yeah. So, but
100%.
Yeah,
man.
that's
Like,
literally what happened to me,
oh,
right? With the death threats and everything.
oh my God, dude.
yeah. Wow.
After David chimes in here, let's talk about the genesis and the story and the resolution of your Colombia marriage, if you're okay talking about it.
I'll be short
Yeah,
about
sure.
it, but
Yeah, no problem.
these are gold nuggets. Like all of this is just like
Vibranium nuggets.
lessons through
We are the Avengers.
pain. Like literally, like these things, it's a shortcut. If you like take this clip like 10 minutes and like listen through it 10 times, these are like golden nuggets.
And
You
share
know,
it 10 times.
that
and subscribe
hurts,
10 times,
you know,
and
like
10 times.
Lessons learned through pain. Anyways, this
Right.
is very interesting because like you talk about the compliance ladder. in which like girls are okay, let me just tell him this and see if he complies, and slowly but surely he complies to bigger and bigger things, right? So in order to stop that, you need to be assertive the first and second time, and then she'll be like, okay, like there's pushback, so I cannot go through with all of this, like let's call it a little bit manipulation, or like getting into her
Right.
frame. So these are the things that you need to identify at the start. So in the future, you don't have to like deal with more and more issues.
Yeah. I want to add,
Yeah,
so
100%.
you've already dated a lot of girls before you got married. So I think, red flags and green flags, they come in very small slivers, right? They come in those 1% moments under stress tests.
Mm.
Even as a guy who's
Yeah.
experienced with dating, sometimes they slip through the radar, right? And so just for a normal
100%.
guy, if they've only dated like 2 or 3 girls, you're just not going to have enough data points to identify those red flags or even like address it, right? And so
Right.
there, even for me, like I've dated a plethora of girls, and one time I took this white girl to Hawaii, and this chick has never, Maui is kind of remote. There wasn't parking, places didn't have internet, and you could just see all these issues come out of nowhere because she's never lived out in the without technology of Vegas, and like all these issues came out. I'm like, wow, holy shit. Like this all came out of nowhere. Of course, her mom, single mom,
Exactly.
it's just like, like sometimes if the girl's hot enough, we do like even experienced guys
Yes.
overlook certain red flags, right? Her friends were in the best, little bit ratchet, but I'm like, oh, she's different. she's hot.
kryptonite.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
she's hot. She's
We date
19. She's different. She
idealistically a
treats
lot
me
of times,
nice.
Yeah, I think what's not to cut you off, Wes, because we definitely want to continue down this story of yours. If you are a person with, I guess, daddy issues or mommy issues, just keep in mind this. It's not to say that you have no future, no capacity to find love. You often find the person with like an equivalent level of trauma or like personal development. And I think something that
That's
we've
fair.
all done as men in this chat, at least, and I'm sure there are many else out there, is we've worked on ourselves. We've done the hard work. We've confronted our demons. We've sought help. We try to improve ourselves as people, surround ourselves with people who we aspire to be like. And all of that stuff is hard. It's not easy. And it's super hard to do it when you're in survival mode. However, that was kind of the duty that we had to ourselves. Wes was in an unstable place, but yet he's taking risks and going to foreign countries, improving his Spanish, improving himself as a person, getting new experiences, making up for the fact that he was less socialized as a child and making up for it later in life. The same with us. we put ourselves out there and we had to learn how to have riz. We had to learn how to have personality, confidence, communication, right? And like make up for being like a robot as children. So if you have daddy issues, we probably had some trauma with our parents too. We made up for it. And I think a lot of us have resolved our issues or made improvements with our own parents and other people in our lives. And so that's what it takes. We're not alienating anybody here unless you are too lazy to do it. Unless you're the type of person that just talks about the types of problems that you have and shows that you have self-awareness, but don't do anything about it. And like you said, Wes, there are girls who are willing to do that. Happened to my friend. She was so self-aware in the problems that she had. And he was like, oh man, if she's this aware, she must be working on it. Nah, bitch. That person was like, she put the bills. She wasn't working on shit. She was just asking for business class flights to my friend because she knew that he had the bag.
Right. Well, so here's an interesting difference between men and women, right? For us, when we discuss problems, the first thing we do is try to go for a solution. When women discuss problems, they just want to talk about the problem, right? They don't actually want a solution from us because that's how we think. They just want to be able to talk about it. They want to feel heard. And that's a major difference between us as well.
Absolutely. And I think even as guys, there are times where we want to feel heard too, but because we're solution oriented, it's sometimes hard to turn that part of our brain off. And like part of being a good partner is like giving them the space to then be able to acknowledge their day or their emotions. And yeah, I think also in terms of managing relationships, there is an interesting balance, especially when you're a busy guy, of how much of that do you give them? How much of that need do you fulfill? Obviously, you want to have an emotional connection with your partner. I don't know. Maybe we could talk about that later. But in terms of your experience with love and dating, I don't know if there are other dating stories that you want to talk about, but in terms of the marriage, like how did you meet your ex? What was it about her that separated her from all the other people that you dated? And how did it unfold? And how did you all of a sudden go from, you know, new country, new life to then finding a wife? That's incredible, man.
So the reason why I was looking for a wife to begin with was
Enthusiasm.
because in Medellin, I got a girl pregnant over there. And when that happened, and I went through the whole abortion process because she got an abortion, that was like so heavily emotionally traumatic. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in the streets anymore. So I want something good. So I want a church girl. So I moved to the new city, Manizales, and then I got introduced to this church. And I admired my wife for a lot of things, you know. So, you know, the thing about green flags and red flags, there are a lot of things that in the beginning, if we like a girl enough, they're cute to us, they're endearing, but we don't understand what it actually means in the long term, right? So, for example, when a girl is like always texting us saying have a good day and like buying us gifts and stuff, it's nice in the beginning, but then in the long term, we're like, is she really clingy or what's up? You know, like we don't really know how this is gonna form in the long form. Is there a problem with my feed or what?
No, it's good.
No, you're
I
fine.
think we're good. Oh wait,
Mike's just
playing with the thing.
Go for it.
Hey,
Go for it. Go for it.
You're good.
We're good.
Hey, Wes, can
Okay.
you say something? Oh, okay, cool. We can hear you.
Yeah. Hello. Okay.
Yeah, you're
Good.
good.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So when I first saw my wife, I admired. I first really met her in a youth ministry group, and I admired that she had the courage to speak in front of, like, speak her story and where she came from and her everything that happened with her dad, like, so openly. I thought that was really nice. I noticed that at the end of the youth ministry, you know how like most people, they don't help to clean up, they just kind of leave. I noticed that she was helping to clean up. I noticed that she was like sweeping, she was like taking care of people. I was like, dang, that's nice. I noticed how everybody else in the church spoke so highly of her. So that means she has a good reputation. They all said that she was like a great person. She was a great leader. Like, she wouldn't hurt a fly. She wouldn't harm a fly. She was just a good person. So I got the social, what's the word?
Social proof.
You
So
got
I'll get-
social proof.
Yes, there you go.
dog?
Exactly. Yeah, social proof. Exactly, social proof. That was another one. The low body, like she was a virgin until we got married. Like I was her first and only. And
Nice.
that was really huge for me too. I don't think I would be with the virgin again. That came with too much emotional stuff. And you know, like in the beginning, just the church in general, right? The thing that they sold me on was, you know, Jesus loves you. We're gonna accept you how you are, and we're gonna love you, and it doesn't matter who you are. Jesus will always love you. And I felt like I was pretty clear about the things that I expected from our relationship from the beginning. But it was hard because we never got to spend a lot of time alone with each other, like in my apartment. We never got to travel together. There was always the loom of the church like on top of us. And at the time I thought it was endearing, but then now I realize it was, that pressure was always there. And that's probably the reason why I wanted things to work out with her. And she was older, so I appreciated that she was more mature. Now looking back, I'm not going to date an older woman, but at the time it was attractive to me. And I just really liked the way she like carried herself, and I thought she would have if I got really big, she would be a perfect person to take to dinner parties. So that's what I thought at the time, you know, like when I would dress up in a suit, she would dress up in a nice dress, and she was very social and she treated people well. She had a good energy. So there were a lot of things that I really liked about her. How did it take a turn
What was
for the
her age?
worse? It's
What was
because
the relative difference between your age?
she was 7 years older than I was.
Oh wow. It's a big
Yeah.
age. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not
You
doing
said
that
she was
again.
a virgin.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare in Latin America, right? I mean,
Yeah,
girls are losing
100%.
virginities at like 13 over there.
Yeah. So the reason for that is that, so not going super into detail, but my ex-wife was the extra family. So she was an extramarital affair, and then she was the bastard child. And her father died when she was 5. But her father had like her own real family. So I think her like deep down. So when she was 5, that's when she got into the church, and then the church became like her father figure. So she dedicated her whole entire life to religion. And she just always made that promise. Like she had a couple times that where she was close, but she always said no. I'm always gonna save myself to the wedding day, and I thought that was very special as well. Finding a Latin girl like who looks how she looks, that old, I was like, wow. I thought that was special at the time. Yeah.
When did you notice that things started breaking down?
So the first around like a couple months before the wedding, we were planning the wedding and we were like taking pictures for the wedding. I realized that she would ask my opinion on stuff, but then when she didn't agree with it, she would just end up what she wanted to do anyways, right? So at a certain point in the wedding, I just checked out. I was like, okay, just plan what you want because it doesn't matter what I say. At the end of the day, you're gonna like do what you want to do. Um, and that's when the issue started coming up. I was like, am I dating you or am I dating the church? Right. That's when I started having the questions. But I was at the moment, I was like, okay, do I really want to break this marriage? I have too much to lose. I still had the restaurant at the time, which was technically in her name. I had okay, there was that. I was technically illegal in the country, so the marriage visa seemed like the best option I can get at the time. I going to lose all my friends in the church? Were they going to turn on me? Which now going through the divorce, I realized that my suspicions were correct. My parents already planned they already had the tickets and everything planned, and I already told all my family I was going to get married. So all these things, all these factors like piled up on each other. And that's why I was like, you know what? When we talked about our issues, she said that don't worry, like I promise that we can negotiate and we can help work on it. And I was like, okay, if I had no reason to doubt her, right? Like up until that point, it was all good. But then once we got married, then all of a sudden it swapped to her wanting to control my life. It's like, okay, I don't want you doing that. It kind of felt like she was threatened by me growing because she didn't want me to realize like, oh, I can actually do better, right? And then she every time I wanted to grow or be in an opportunity to get better or meet other women, she would be very insecure about it, and she would try to control me to not do it. But she would always take the religion angle. So, for example, I mean I'm not really a bar person, but sometimes I'll go out to go hang out with people. And then if I would want to do that, she'd be like, well, you got to be careful. You can't let anyone from the church see you because it's going to reflect poorly on my reputation. You know that bars are only for infidelity and demons. There's nothing good that comes from bars. And if you went, it would really make me feel sad. And, my relationship with God is something that I can never negotiate. So, I don't think that's healthy for you. And I don't think God would want that. She would always take the religion angle, right? And she would always just use it to control. And then it just progressively like got more intense. And then I remember a couple months before all this shit blew up, we went to Cali, Colombia, actually. And I was there for research because I was working on my course and I wanted to make a video on it. So what's there to do in Cali? Salsa. So I went out and I wanted to go dancing. I want to go meet some friends, go to some like house parties. And she was just being a bitch the whole entire time. She was just she was super pouty, just like not interested. And I was angry because I'm like, I do all the church stuff. I go to all your family events and I talk to all your family. And I'm like, I do everything that you want me to be a part of because it's important to you. But as soon as it's something for me and you don't feel comfortable, all of a sudden it's an issue. And she always hid behind religion. And then I told her like, okay, well, am I dating you or am I dating the church? And I gave her an ultimatum. Like, if things continue down this way, I want to separate. And then after that, that's when she started bringing in the church because she was like, there's no way I could be wrong. Or and I don't fault her because that's all she knows, right? Like her whole entire life is the church. She doesn't know anything else. So as soon as she saw me getting distant, she started getting the church for help. I wanted to confront it with her and work things out like between her and I, but she just, every time it was something that she felt uncomfortable with, she was never willing to negotiate because religion this, religion that. I don't feel comfortable religion this. And then I was like, well, we can't run a relationship this way. And then that's when I was like, okay, I was already checking out slowly. And then all the shit happened with the church. And I was like, all right, that made my decision for me.
Dude, that's so fucking crazy. Like this unassailable moral high ground as leverage for you to not basically live your life. It's like really hard to counter that. So firstly, props for having the courage to be able to like break out of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
Oh, sorry. Because how can you argue with God, right? I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
Yeah, like unless you had that ninja, like, well, God knows what's truly between us, and He's the only people that He's the only person or force that we should worry about. If other people are gonna judge or cast stones, they should look at themselves in the mirror, right? Like,
Exactly. That's what they
Were
preach,
you
right?
already
Yeah.
religious before you met her, or were you like less religious and then you became more religious just to kind of
So I
like
have
appease her?
yeah. I always had a strong relationship with God because when I was playing professionally piano, I always played for Catholic churches and Christian churches. So I was always around the faith. I loved the music, and I made some really good friends in the church back in the States that like I love, right? So I was like, okay. So I was kind of always around it, and when I came to this new church, I was in a place of instability. So I was like, wow, these people are treating me so well. You know, I feel so at home here. They feel like family. This is what I want because I never had that in my life coming from an Asian family, right? Like we never experienced that kind of love and affection ever. So when I finally got it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want this to last forever, right? So then I got more religious because of her, but the faith was already there. And even now, right? Like even though I had a bad experience with religion, I still have a strong relationship with God. And I feel like I live my life honoring God, even though I may not be the most religious person. And I talk about God quite frequently in my channel as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is interesting because like in terms of like the religion, it wasn't about like the religion. I think she turned the church and like she made the group protector against you. You were made
Yes,
to be a threat to their beliefs, and that is why I
exactly.
think all the negative connotations towards you were in play at that time,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And this stems from the fact that she's a very insecure person, right? And I don't blame her
Mm-hmm.
for it because it goes back to the daddy issues. So this is
Yeah.
something that I learned being with her is that the danger of being with an insecure person is that they see everything as a threat. And then it's only a certain point at a certain point they're going to see you as a threat, right? And that's exactly what happened. Like she just felt like threatened or uncomfortable, and I was the threat. So she went back to the church to fight against her own husband, which is fucked up, right?
Mm.
In so many levels, but that's what she thought was right at the time. So
dude, you know what's interesting is like it almost seemed like the roles were reversed. I know you like being on top, but she was the one having you sit at home, not leave. You started playing video
yes,
games, and like it sucks because it sounds like that bait and switch after marriage, everything changed, or right before it when you were so invested and it was like logistically super hard to turn back on because everyone had their tickets, the church was involved in all this and all that. That's when
yes,
everything started changing. And then she was the one who was calling all the shots. I guess in retrospect,
yes.
one is how would you have handled that? Would you have handled it differently? And two is how would you feel if the roles were reversed? Because it feels like that's kind of a hot topic in this day and age, right? Where guys are saying, hey, I don't want my girl out in the club acting like a whore, doing this, doing that, blah, 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 putting themselves in precarious positions that are going to come back and bite them in the ass or make them look like an idiot. And like, I don't know where you stand on that. I think that's an interesting thing to talk about because you've been on the other side. Is this something
Right.
that now allows you to empathize with women who value freedom, or do you still value like, hey, the peace and quiet, or valuing a girl who doesn't value those things and making life easier? Yeah, man, would love to hear your thoughts on that, on both those things.
That's a good question because I bought into all that red pill mentality, and then until like I actually, because they all say, "Oh, get a good religious trad wife," and that's literally the talking point, right? Like get a good Muslim woman or get a good Christian woman, conservative values, low body count. So I did that, and then I went through it, and I'm just like, wait a minute, these guys have no idea what the fuck they're talking about because that comes with its own issues, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out personally, like, I'm not trying to subscribe to one idea or the other. I'm just more concerned now with figuring out what works for me individually. I think so often we try to subscribe things that work for everybody, like a blanket statement, but each relationship that all of us will have is an individual contract that we have between us and the other person. Fuck everybody else. That's irrelevant. It has to work for us individually. Sorry, what was the first question that you asked me, Andrew?
Yeah, the first part was how would you handle the relationship or the marriage differently going back if you could, right? Because the leverage started like shifting right before the marriage when everybody was bought in, and then it sounds like the behavior completely changed, and then she started just overriding you,
Right.
and there was kind of this deterioration of respect. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that is one of those red pill things. It's like, well, almost like respect might be even more powerful than love in a long-term relationship. I don't know where you stand on that either.
Yes.
However, I remember asking an ex who was just
100%,
basically
yeah.
getting like, not in my face, but just making all these emotional problems when I have like, I'm like putting out fires every day for like work and shit. And I said, hey, look,
Yes.
if I was Iron Man, if I was fucking Tony Stark or Batman, would you be like putting all this bullshit onto me? And she's like,
Yeah.
no. And I was like, interesting. So it's because you're comfortable enough with me and maybe don't even respect me at that level that you think it's okay.
Mm.
And also, I'm the one tolerating it. So I get what I tolerate.
Yes.
Because I'm entertaining
Exactly.
it. You're also getting this feedback that it's okay, as opposed to being like, no.
Yeah.
Like how would
Right.
Batman or Iron Man, who's actually like saving the world or doing high-end shit, act in that situation? They'd be like, I can't do this right now. Please remove yourself from the vicinities, right? Like, so it was
Right.
twofold. I was tolerating it, and also they didn't have the same reverence as they would have for maybe like a person at that stature. But it's not to say, you know, like I can't get there or I'm not on my way. In fact, the process is probably equally, if not more important than actually being in that position, right? I have to value, we have to value our time as such. So I think it's twofold. But yeah, going back, is there anything that you would have done differently to manage that or prevent yourself from being in that situation? Or did
think
you
I
have
got
to go
married too
through
young.
it to actually learn it?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So it's funny that you say that. There's a lot of layers to that. So I think I got married too young, and two, I just put myself in a position where I gave up all of my leverage, right? Something that I'm thinking about marriage now is that marriage is a medieval institution that was created when the life expectancy of humans was like 30 years old. Now that we live till 80, 90, we don't know what to do with all that extra time. Most marriages end like are unhappy marriages because 50%, let's say 50% of divorces or end of marriages end in divorces. That's just the people who had the courage to leave. How many more people are in unhappy marriages just for the kids? Let's say 20%, right? Let's say conservatively 20%. That means 70% of marriages end poorly. And the older that I become, I actually think that like I don't know if I want to get married again because I think a woman acts differently when she knows that you can leave. And when you get married to her and she has all the leverage now, I don't think a lot of women know what to do with that leverage and they kind of take advantage of it. You know, I don't know how to like frame that correctly yet, but as a thought that I have. So I guess moving forward, when I got married, I didn't know who I was yet. Fuck, right now I still don't know who I am. And a part of me being here in Asia and going on this Asia tour is like getting in touch with my roots and figuring out why I am the way that I am. So in the future, like if I do get married again or something very serious, I want to know without a doubt exactly who I am and what values I can or cannot compromise on, and then pick a partner based on that. Another thing that I'm learning, and with this new girl that I'm talking to, something I'm practicing with her, is that from the very beginning, we're completely honest about everything. I agree that I don't think people can change ever, right? In a relationship, like a lot of times, because we're idealistic, we fall in love with the potential of the partner that we're with instead of who they really are. So moving forward with all of my future relationships, I'm just going to be 100% honest from the jump. It doesn't matter how painful the conversation is going to be. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. I'm unattached to the outcome because I know if we do all of this in the beginning, in the long term, the relationship is going to be a lot healthier.
That's interesting. Like, do you think about timing of that at all? Like, do you think that there are certain things that you would talk about on the first date versus like maybe a week or a month into the relationship? Because I think timing does matter. As someone who's like very forthcoming and wears my heart on my sleeve, I also like the idea of just sharing everything and just being open about things. But I also realize, like, for example, in a corporate setting, if you're just like hot out the gates, it has a different effect versus like being professional up front and then revealing your stuff over time. There's like trust that's built or like credibility or respect or professionalism. Relationships, I think, have or human nature has like a similar sort of, I guess, characteristic, right? Like if a girl is like bought in to you and then you're like, hey, like, so these are some of my demons, I think she'll be more inclined to not overlook them, but work them out through you because she's gotten to know you as a person first. And I'm not saying everybody go manipulate and hide all your shit or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I do think like timing can matter here in a situation like this. Have you thought about at all whether to just be like hot out the gates. This is who I am. Like love me or hate
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
leave it or take it, or yeah. So
Okay. Yeah. So that's a very fair point. Something that I'm really happy that I've learned from this new girl that I'm talking to is that a lot of times we think that over multiple dates we can build a connection with another person. I think real connection is instant and you feel it, right? Like it's when you talk to somebody and literally from the first conversation you guys just click. That's what I experienced with this new girl, and I'm happy that I did because it reminded me what that felt like. Because there are some people where you just kind of feel like you have to kind of make it work, but then with other people the connection is instant. And I think when the connection is instant, you can dive really deep into those things a lot quicker and without judgment because the connection is real. I don't know if that makes sense. Oh no. Ass up, face down. That pussy busting.
Hey Wes, can you hear us?
Oh, now, yeah.
We're good. Sorry about that,
Yes.
man.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can hear you guys now. Yeah.
Difficulties.
All right.
Yeah, I guess to pick up where we left off.
yeah,
Um,
Wes, we were in the heat of it. You were just giving your insights on how to prevent or what you would have done differently
Yeah.
in your marriage.
Yeah. So something that I'm experiencing with this new girl that can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I don't think it's a time component. I think it's a connection component. There are certain people that you meet that right off the jump you connect with right away, and you can and you can just jump into the deep stuff right away. And with other people, because you're not on the same level, right? They may need some work or something like that. They're very uncomfortable about diving into those deep conversations. So for me, I don't think it's a time component. It's about seeking people who you have genuine connection with. And I learned that because the girl that I'm talking to now, we had that genuine connection from the jump. And we only spent one day together, but well, I mean, and now we've spent 5 days together. But that first night we spent together, we just talked for like 10 hours about everything, about our life and everything before we even hooked up, right? We just literally just talked about our life, and I told her about my divorce. She told me about her family, and it was instant. So moving forward, right? that's why I'm a lot pickier now, because now that I know what that feels like, I'm only gonna mess with women that I know we have that connection. Because every other woman is a waste of time, especially if you're a man guy who got shit going on. Like, no, like I'm not gonna put up with a girl where I have to force to make the conversation work just for some puss. Nah, bro, ain't worth it.
So, Wes, I did have a question in regards to culture. Like, how much complexity do you feel like the culture differences add to, a potential relationship, potential marriage? I don't know how much of that was actually a problem.
Yeah, I think it could be overcome. It just takes a ton of effort, and it takes a lot of patience from both parts. It just makes a lot more sense to date within a similar culture because it's just easier, right? Like there's less friction. It's just less of a hill to climb. And if you have options, it just makes more sense. But I wouldn't make the argument though that Latin culture is very similar to Black culture from the U.S. I would say, and I would say American culture is very similar to Australian and U.S. culture and UK culture. But I would say a lot of the Eastern countries are very similar. So starting, I would say from like Eastern Europe all the way to Asia, there's different variations. We all kind of look different, but we all share the same like conservative values of family, of honor, and tradition. We just express it in different ways. So the girl that I'm talking to right now, she's living in the UK, but she's Israeli, and we share this experience because we have Eastern families, but we grew up in Western cultures, and her and I have a lot more in common than I would even say like my ex-wife and I did. And we're from different cultures, but it's because like those traditional Eastern cultures are very, very similar. So I guess like I mean, when it comes to marriage, right, it's not just about looks and sex and everything. There's so many factors that come into it. You're really blending two families together. So that's why culture just makes so much more sense, because you don't have to explain things. I'll give you a good example. You're Middle Eastern, right? Where are you from, bro?
Parents are from Pakistan, but yeah.
Okay, Pakistan,
That's like-
right. Are you guys on
yeah.
time or are you guys late?
On time or late? I'm not
Yeah.
sure. That's a good question. I feel like punctuality is pretty important. It's kind of like Eastern, right? Like they're very business minded. They want to make sure, they're ambitious people. So that obviously they're gonna be more punctual. They're more high energy. They're not as laid back as maybe Europeans or Latin cultures.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So punctuality is important for us. You go to the Middle East, punctuality is not even a thing. You say a party's at 6, they come at 8, right? So that just even small things like that. Another thing, for example, Colombians are morning people. Asians, I would say, we're night people, right? Our biggest meal is dinner. Colombians, their biggest meal is lunch and breakfast. Like even small things like that can really add up to like planning events,
Sure.
going out, socializing when your social battery is charged. Like for me, like I'd rather go at night, and in the morning I don't want anybody to bug me. But for them, they're like 7 in the morning, let's go. Everybody's like excited and stuff, and like that was very, very exciting for me. So
Wow. Interesting. Some
there's a
interesting
lot of
insights,
podcast.
man.
Let's
Yeah, our
go.
podcast's all over the place too.
guys.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Appreciate it. That makes a lot of sense.
So Wes, you said
Yeah.
something really interesting here, which is more of a connection issue rather than a time thing. And I totally agree. I think you could build a connection super quickly with certain people. And I always tell this to people. I'm like, hey, you can know your neighbor for 20 years and not know shit about them except like logistical things, but get lost in the fucking forest with some random stranger and overnight know them better than you've
Yes.
known your neighbor, right? So it's the
Right.
quality of the time that you have together and the connection that you have that really determines the strength of the relationship. However, one thing that I find
Yes.
really interesting, and I question this as well, and I haven't come to a concrete answer for this, is how does values come in versus chemistry? I feel like as I get older, chemistry can be fabricated, right? If you take
Yes.
a martial arts class with a girl or some BDSM bar, true story, with a date, you can like accelerate that physical and emotional connection, and like it's like chemistry. The environment was ripe for the disruption and then the rebuilding of together, right? And I feel like you leave me on an island with some random girl, or not just even me. Like if that situation happened with somebody, it's like inevitable that some shit's gonna go down with enough time, right? Because the environment allows for it. So I'm sure you're familiar with Alex Shamozy, absolute entrepreneurial beast, right? He and Layla met on Bumble, and he was like coming out the gate just like as like an interviewer, like a robot, just like asking all these like professional related questions, personal related questions, and just like she's like there was zero emotional chemistry. She was like it was kind of fucking weird, but then they got to the bottom of how they have very similar values, and I think they're both Persian. They're
Yes.
maybe like the same religion, and what's it? Iran, yeah. So they're both Persian, and
Yeah, Persian. Yeah.
and then they realized like they have all these compatibilities, and they both had similar levels of ambition, and they had all the fundamentals or ingredients to be able to grow together, right? So that in a situation like that makes me rethink my approach of just feeling out immediate chemistry. Not saying that it's wrong, right? But have you factored that in at all as well? And do you do anything to elicit those types of values? Obviously, you have to meet the person first, or maybe go on a trip with them. But yeah, like how do you balance those two things together, right?
That's a good point. So I agree with you on the chemistry thing because businesses hold conferences for team chemistry building. So chemistry can be fabricated, but connection and values cannot. Like those are like pretty set in stone, right? And why I'm such a stickler for connection is like the best way I can describe connection is that we all have those buddies, those friends where we haven't seen them for 2 or 3 years, but as soon as we talk again, it's like we haven't missed a beat, right? Because like and that can't be fabricated, right? Because it's just you just connect with people on a higher level than others. So yeah, I think, but the value. Okay, so I think values are more important, but there's no one size fits all because it's not just values; it's what values are most important to you. So you can use the Hormozis as a great example because for them, entrepreneurship is an extremely high value because Layla is like that as well. They're both killers, right? And it works for them because a lot of people who are normally in that phase, right? A lot of people would say like, oh, entrepreneurs are high what's the fucking word? High value men are looking for like a more submissive woman or X, Y, and Z, but they're a really good example of an exception. Even Impact Theory. Do you guys know about him? Like Quest? Yeah,
Quest
him and his wife.
Tom Billion.
Yeah, both of them are killers
These
too.
two.
And she's there. That's not like the typical what the red pill is pushing, but they work as well. They've been married for like 20 plus years. So there's so many layers to it, which is why relationships are so freaking complicated. It's because there's connection, sex is really important, and there's values, but that's such a big word. Are we talking about religion? I know for a lot of people that's something that can be overcome, but for some people that's non-negotiable, right? Is entrepreneurship important? Like this is actually something I'm thinking about now because I wanted that traditional submissive wife, but I'm like, is that what I really want? Or do I want someone who can be like a business partner? I really don't know.
Oh, he's trying to be
I
on
need to
bottom
figure it
now.
out.
What?
Just kidding, Wes.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Have you read that book Homo Deus? They think that algorithms are going to be better at predicting our future soulmates better than we are, and I think that might actually be accurate.
I think so.
If there's enough data over like your posts, the number of likes, the engagement, I mean, it can figure out your values very, very, very. I think in the future, it really may just be like a dating app, knows all your data, all the shit you do, what time you go to sleep, what pisses you off, what emojis you throw, and it can just pair you up with a potential partner. That's scary. That's an interesting theory. And I don't think it's that far out.
Wow.
I think it would know as well too.
Right. If you're like personal development oriented, you're likely to grow on a certain path, or there's like a certain like number of decision trees that are within reach or reason, right? Like, and how that unfolds, right? If you go from working on your personal skills to then becoming an entrepreneurship, right? Like those are all things that are common pathways. I do agree that there are certain people that like fall off the beaten path and just completely disappear and like become spiritual, which you probably could predict for as well. But I do think that it's not a high bar to reach, because so many people live life with conflicted values that they get pulled in so many different directions. So they're making these choices reactively as opposed to consciously. And this is also one reason why, Wes, you stood out to me so much, because you're like consciously navigating life and dictating how you go about things and exploring things in such a conscious way, which is like really impressive to see, because most people aren't doing that, right? They were just like caught up with our fucking bullshit and just like being pulled in whatever direction in life. And I think it, not to say that this doesn't happen to girls, but I think we kind of mentioned this briefly at the beginning. Like it's a lot about feeling good and being heard versus like just confronting ourselves and finding solutions that causes us to have more of a compulsion for doing that. And so finding girls that are on the same page and have that similar values, I think is an interesting thing. Do you go about finding girls that have more aligned values with you in a certain way? Previously, it might have been religion or church. Is that something that you still explore? Or I joke about this with these guys all the time. I'm going to meet the fucking future of my, or like mother of my children at like a Tony Robbins event, right?
Right.
So have you thought about like where you'd find the baby mama of your life?
So eloquent, Andrew. So eloquent.
Baby mama.
Okay, so here's a nuanced thought, right? I think the ideas that we have about our partner are very unrealistic. We want to find, like, we want to find someone who is we have sexual chemistry with, who share our values, who potentially share our religion, who check all of these boxes. Whereas I think that as I get older, I like different women for different things, which is why, like, the Muslim thing of having multiple wives, the older I become, the more it makes sense to me, because I like different women for different things, and they fulfill different aspects of what I want. So I will give you an example, right? So the girl that I'm talking to now, or that I'm with, I can smoke with her. We can be together. We have great sex. We can dance. We listen to the same music. We can joke about. We have the similar same sense of humor, right? And I love all of these things about her. But there are other things that, for example, like maybe business-wise or religion-wise, or a woman that I would want to bring to a dinner party. You know, like, I'm not saying that this girl can't do it, but there's other women in my life that are more equipped for that, right? And I just think that, like, my approach to meeting women now is that the number one thing that I want to check for is connection. If connection is there, then we can get started. And once we get started, I'm just gonna vet you and see how you deal with all these other situations. But because of my situation and my age and everything, I'm not married to anything yet. So right now, I'm just, okay, once I find a connection with somebody, I'm just going to explore and see what I actually like. Do I want to have multiple wives in the future? Right now, I say that, like, honestly, having multiple women is multiple headaches. But maybe in the future, if I'm better equipped financially and I'm in the spot to do that, that's what I may do. I can't give an answer right now because, honestly, I don't even really know.
They're deep. Are you meeting women mostly through the apps? You just going out about and approaching? How do you deal with, as Mike would call it, lead generation?
Yeah. So for me, I don't like apps that much because I think when you meet someone off an app, the chemistry is not the same, and I don't want it as badly. I like the chase of it, and I just kind of live my everyday life. So how it normally happens, it's like, all right, I kind of want to meet someone right now. So I'll go to like hostels, or I'll just kind of like hang out with people, and just being out and about, I always find women that are attracted to me. So then I'll just kind of vet them. Okay, is this like a hookup thing or whatever? Do I want to see this through? It's just like about putting myself out there. I don't know. Because I used to do cold approach and approach all the women, like do a numbers game. But then I realized, like, man, I'm just wasting my time with all these women that are just not really that interested in me. I would much rather be like put my time and effort into women where I'm at least an 8.5 out of 10 attracted to. So, and knowing the kind of man that I am, and I think I'm a real G. So I don't need a numbers game because I know everywhere that I go in the world, whether it was, and I'm proving it here that I'm in Thailand, or whether it's Colombia, or I'm going to go to Eastern Europe. I know everywhere I can go, I can attract women. So, how do I normally do it? I just kind of live my everyday life and attract, like, go to places that I would normally go to. I'm not a bar or club or like that kind of guy. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not like a bar club kind of guy. So I'm not going to meet women there because that's not my scene. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Do you guys want to jump in too? I know I've been doing a lot of the driving. Don't want to dominate too hard. I got endless questions, but yeah, if you guys want, you guys have any things that you want to jump in on? Da Vinci, top J. You're good. Okay.
This has been a
Sorry,
great
Wes. They're not
conversation, by the
interested
way.
in you.
Like, you guys,
No, dude. Yeah, really appreciate you hopping on. And just for anybody that was wondering, this all happened so serendipitously. We were researching topics from the Asian masculinity thread in Reddit, and I saw this post that stood out. It was a very comprehensive, detailed post about an Asian guy's experience in Colombia, and then there was another one on like what Colombians think about Asians. And they tied back to you. I opened your channel, and then just somehow noticed that you went through this roller coaster of a life experience in the last year or two. This whole marriage, divorce, evacuating Colombia, and then you happen to be in Thailand too. And your latest video was on being in the same city that we were. And I was like, holy shit, are the cards aligned here? So fortunately, just like slid in the DMs. And also you left your contact there. So I'm really glad that we were able to make this happen just even within a couple days. So I appreciate you getting up early.
Yeah, I mean,
even though you don't want to deal with people.
Yeah, thanks, man. No. This is such an engaging conversation. Like I love talking about this high level stuff, you know, and all of you guys are about it too. So it was a very riveting conversation on my end. I enjoyed it a lot.
Really, really, really glad to hear that. You're a fellow rice field rebel out here living life on your terms, doing it us off the beaten path. How's this? Since we've been going on for a little bit of a while right now, how about we talk a little bit about some of the business stuff that you've been doing, which is really cool, and the music and how that all ties in together, your future plans. And then you also mentioned earlier on in this chat that you want to live an extraordinary life. And I just want to get a little bit more clarity on terms of what that looks like specifically for you. And then let's top it off and break from there. Till the next
Okay,
time.
live a what life? Sorry, you cut out for a second. Live a what?
You said extraordinary.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So on the business front,
wise, so what have I?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but on the business front, I noticed how entrepreneurial you are. Even from like your earlier videos, you had this product that you dropped, My New Colombian Life. We'll post it down below for you guys to check out, even though he's not there anymore. Still probably lots of gold nuggets. That you were able to like think entrepreneurially and start finding ways to monetize, like that carried your journey and carrying your life nomadically. Yeah, just can you talk about that entrepreneurial drive that you have, how you go about making money, if you're, you know, whatever it is that you're willing to disclose, and how this all ties into the big picture of your life?
Damn, I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit, but the older that I become, the more I realize my strengths and weaknesses. I'm very good at creating a product. I'm very good at starting a business. I'm very good at leading a team. I am terrible with the everyday logistics of a business or running the actual business, right? Like that's a different skill set. I wish I had it. I've tried to make it work and I fucking hate it. And all of my 20s has just been experimenting with different businesses and me coming to the same conclusion. I create a really good product. You know, I do all the marketing. I know it can sell. But then once it comes to the actual like running of the business, it's hard for me to balance that while also doing all of my creative things. So in my life, I started teaching piano when I was like 17, and that was like my first, I guess, entrepreneurial endeavor. And I started playing professionally freelance, and then I sold real estate. I had a clothing company. When I came to Colombia, I opened a restaurant here. I had that for a year, and so I've done all those businesses. But now because YouTube is amazing, man. Like the potential on social media is ridiculous. Now I'm just tying all my business stuff to my YouTube channel. Instead of trying to do a bunch of other things and be a businessman, I realized that my true strength and calling is a creator. So how I've set it up now, I mean, okay, so I'll talk about the music front. So music, I make money from that because I get money from sync. So my music has been on like TV shows, on HBO, on Hulu. It gets used on a bunch of YouTube channels and I get paid for that. I get a lump sum at the end of the year for all the downloads that I get. And every time it gets used in sync or like TV shows, I get royalties for that. That's good enough to live like a pretty base lifestyle in like Colombia or Thailand. There's that. And then on the YouTube end, so I have my course, and that makes me quite a bit of money. That's really, really good. So if you guys are thinking about going to Colombia, definitely check it out because nobody else has lived that deep of a Colombian experience. Like all the other YouTubers, it's a very surface level thing. Anyways, now I do pretty much everything through affiliates. I just make my channel and the content that I want to do. And then because I built a lot of trust with my audience over the years, because I've shared so much, every time I recommend somebody, it comes like, oh, Wes is not a snake. You know what I'm saying? So when I recommend somebody, it does really good for them business wise. So I've partnered up with realtors, with Airbnb people, with lawyers, with business lawyers, visa lawyers, with the Spanish school over there. And I've done some affiliate stuff with my course as well. And then just combining all of that on top of my YouTube channel is my main source of income now. And then plus I do some coaching and consulting as well.
That's so dope. So it sounds like the bulk of it comes from the affiliates and your product.
Yes. Yeah.
It gives you more time freedom
And yeah,
to do what you want.
yeah, and
right?
competitions, yeah. Sorry, what was that, Mike? Good.
It gives you more time freedom to do what you want, which is creating. You don't have to, like you said, your strength is building things and also being a creative, and you don't want to mess with the boring day-to-day logistics. So I think having that affiliate option is really good. So it kind of deloads the things that you don't want to do, and you can focus on the things that you do.
Exactly 100%. Because for the longest time, right, I think most we obsess about money so much as a society, but I think what most people want is not money, it's freedom. So once I was able to realize that about myself, I'm like, okay, I have people that are making way more money than I am because I'm not rich by any means. But the fact that I can literally live life however I want, go wherever I want, all I got to do is make videos and I can survive. And like, if things were to go down in Thailand, bounce, I'm gonna go to wherever, fucking Europe, or go to another Asian country. So I was thinking, I was like, you know what? I really kind of have that freedom. So why overcomplicate it, right? Just focus on what I'm doing right now and just try to build those up as much as I can. Rather, when I was younger, I felt like I had something to prove. I think it came from like my dad, because I had a lot of pressure from my dad to like make money and be a businessman and do something that was like that they could brag about, I guess. But now I'm just like, you know what? What's most important to me is freedom. And I've always just wanted to have the freedom to travel and be able to make content on my terms, and I've accomplished that. Even though I want to be making more, but I'm in a position where I'm okay right now, and I really like it. So yeah,
That's super dope, man. In terms of wealth and richness, right? Bob Marley would disagree with you. He'd say you would be rich. He's like, you're rich with life experiences, with knowledge, and I think you've lived probably a life already worth living, and it's only going to continue to grow and get better. Just out of curiosity, do you have any future plans that you're really excited about in terms of capitalizing on this freedom that you've earned for yourself that people are dying to have, or also growing your businesses in different ways, or embarking on a new, business endeavor? Any of those things?
wow. So something that's so fulfilling about YouTube is that even though monetarily, at least the way I'm doing it, it may not be monetarily as strong as some of the other channels, but the impact that I've had on people and the people that I've been able to meet from my channel has been insane. Like, I've been able to meet NFL players, other really big YouTubers, like a lot of famous people, just from my 16,000 subscribers. So I'm just like, wow, that excites me, and I'm excited. Like, the fact that we're here now is because of my YouTube channel, right? And you resonated with it. So, I guess moving forward, I'm really excited to the different people that I'm going to meet. I'm really excited for, not gonna lie, Eastern European girls. I hear Polish girls and Ukrainian girls are like some of the hottest in the world, so I want to go explore that. But
Your boy was in Ukraine for 4 months, so we can get down to that a little bit offline.
Is it true? Is it true?
There are a lot. I'll give you the good, the bad, the dirty, and everything in between, homie.
Okay, nice, bro. That's nice.
Yeah, it was super good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm just really, this is the only time in my life where I've been able to be like, so it's funny. When I was married, I felt like I was chained and I had zero options. Now that I'm free, it's the opposite problem. I have unlimited options. I can do anything that I want to do. And it's a little overwhelming, if I'm being honest. The way that I'm trying to live life right now is just kind of go.
My friend.
PP Graham.
What was that?
Oh shit!
Sorry to cut you off, man.
Yeah, sorry. Oh,
Okay,
okay. Yeah, so I'm just excited to see where my life takes me. I'm not gonna get too attached to anything or to any thought or idea, or that my life has to be a certain way. I'm just gonna ride the wave for the next year or two and just see what happens. Right? Like, that's kind of the exciting part about it.
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of guys probably listening that kind of strive for that lifestyle. Do you have any advice for someone that's not at that point yet? Like, how would they get there? Like, how should they kind of invest in themselves? What kind of experiences should they seek out to kind of get a lot of the realizations that you've gotten from the last few years?
I guess you have to understand what your true motivation is, right? Are you doing business because you really like that business, or because you like money, or you think it's going to bring you clout for women, right? Like, there's so many layers to it. I feel like a lot of us do things based on what other people's impression of us. Like, we want to make a good first impression. For me, I think from a young age, I always knew that I just wanted to live an extraordinary life. So I made my life decisions based on that. So I guess, like, advice to other people, maybe you guys have opinions on this too. I think you just want to figure out exactly what you want in your life early on, and just don't compromise on those values. Like, go and pursue that and try not to get swayed by other people. You may get some hiccups here and there, but as long as you're doing what you want, not what other people want, I think most people will be happy.
Awesome, man. And on that note, let's wrap it up with what an extraordinary life looks like for you in particular. Like, what do you envision like going down in the future that excites you? If you already have an idea of what that might look like, if you're open to sharing.
Yeah. I mean, the ultimate goal for me is family. I want to be a father. I want to have kids. So I guess the next few years, I just want to experience life and become very wise and experienced, and then be able to pass that onto my kids. And then I'm going to still be doing YouTube when I'm a father, and I'm going to talk about how I raise my kids. And that's going to be one of the biggest things I want to leave onto the world, and how I want to impact the world. That makes me excited. I think that so something that I'm also realizing as well, going back to kind of the women, I don't think women care that much about money. Women care more about like experiences and having fun and just being with an interesting person. Because when I was younger, I was a little more self-conscious about my money, but now I'm just like, well, I don't have any money and I'm still pulling bitches. So it's not money. It's not that aspect, right? I think it's really about being confident in yourself and living in your truth and what makes you happy. And I think women can sense that. Well, not just women, just other people in general. When they see that energy, they're attracted to that energy. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My buddy says fun is the currency of sex. And he's pulled so many girls, even back when he was poor, to his air mattress back in Bakersfield. So I think as long as you're creating fun emotions and you're doing new things, that's what it's all about. Because you can have millions in your crypto wallet, but you're not doing anything with it. The girl's not really experiencing anything new.
Yeah,
fun. So I think it's about
exactly
what you do with your money.
And you're gonna attract. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was also going to say that a lot of those guys that have money and are not interesting, they only attract gold diggers because that's all they have that's all they lead with, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are definitely a portion of people who come from scarcity and value that security. And so maybe money might be that direct thing that they gravitate towards. But in actuality, the underlying value that they're wanting is either security or the connection, or like you said, the fun.
Exactly.
And money is an extension of our personalities, right? So the more we can kind of give people that experience of who we are as people, that'll be the self-filtering process for who we actually have a connection with, like you said. Yes. So yeah, man, on that note, really wholeheartely appreciate you jumping on, making this happen. I know you're with a lady right now that you're trying to, in the good graces of. She's probably staring at you still, but
she's sleeping. Dude, she's chilling. It's cool.
Yeah. She's sleeping? Okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, from our team to you, like really, really, really appreciate it. And it was super dope connecting with you on such a deeper level and having a conversation like this. And just the fact that you're so grounded and you keep it real and that you're sharing your insights inspires us to be able to do the same. Share our experiences, make a positive impact, grow this YouTube so we can do something similar. And I think our missions are very aligned in that. So thanks again, man. Anybody else want to
you guys do, man. It was a great
great podcast. Let's stay in touch. Anytime you want to visit Vegas, hit me up. I got a big pad over there and anywhere around the world where our guys are at. Feel free to connect and let's hang out.
Vegas, Miami, Madrid, anytime. Donde quieras.
Donde quieras.
If you want to shoot some content with Mr. Romeo over here in Spanish, pick up girls and Asian guys pick up girls in Spanish. Good future YouTube awesome. Ideas.
We're actually 100%. Going to Mexico, so if you want to join, feel free.
That's a
January,
void. I
February.
don't see that many Asians
Yeah,
talking to Latinas in Spanish. So
in Espanol.
that could be a new
Yes,
genre.
exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Let's get to 100 million, Mr. Beast,
Let's get it.
Mr.
Yeah.
Papi Chulo, Chino.
But yeah, un placer. Very nice to meet you. And
Well.
like, let's keep in touch. We
Amen.
can go South America and do
Yeah.
some.
I'm gonna take a
things
break
there.
for Latinos for a while, but I'm down in the future.
No, wait,
No.
Kobe just got
Wait.
on the force.
no.
Let's not rush it back.
Chile. Chile is a good place. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's
I've
let's
heard
talk offline. We got
Anyway.
Bali to also sort out, you know, and
Yeah.
some of this Eastern European stuff can put you up to speed with
Oh,
that.
last question. What other countries in Latin America have you been to?
Dominican Republic, Peru, Panama, Ecuador.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I guess
Brazil's-
Mexico
I
doesn't
feel like
count.
Brazil
Yeah,
is kind of like Colombia, but girls were a little bit more time managed, better at time management,
Yeah.
maybe more university.
I hear good
stuff,
things.
so-
Yeah.
but they don't speak Spanish, so that kind of.
When I go back, I want to go to Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. That's a goal. Like when I eventually make it back to Latin America.
Chile is good.
Likewise, yeah. I have some buddies who ran some parties and programs in Buenos Aires. Said good things about it, so that's definitely on the radar for us as well.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Sounds
Nice.
good. All right, brother.
Cool, brother.
Thank you
All right.
again. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah,
We'll
see you
talk
guys.
soon.
Peace out.
Appreciate everyone tuning in for the Rice Rebels. Thanks again. We got another hot episode coming to you later this week. We're traveling, so no episode this Wednesday, but we'll continue on this Friday. All right, guys. Peace.
All right.
Thanks again, Wes.
Peace out, guys.